With that said, though, let's talk about the best conference in all the land, folks, the SEC. And I'm not just saying that just because I root for a team in the conference. It is a objective fact. The SEC is the greatest conference in all of college football. But before we get to that, another sip of my choice caffeinated liquid. Oh, that's good. That is good. The burp's coming here in a second. I'll tell you that right now. There it is. Little aftershock there, tiny little aftershock there. You might have caught that on the on the microphone there. But with that final sip, let's get straight into it. Starting off with Georgia, I got no notes. I'm just going straight off the dome like I did with most of the Pac-12. They're starting a new quarterback after Stetson Bennett's 14 years at Georgia. Got Carson Beck in there now, 5-star guy. I don't think they're ever going to be starting a walk-on quarterback there ever again under Kirby Smart's tenure. I'll just tell you that right now. Carson Beck, more of a pocket passer than Stetson Bennett, less mobile, but he's got a hell of an arm. Should be, ample weapons to work with. I think Thomas, I know Thomas is in there, former Mississippi State wide receiver. Haven't been hearing great things out of Thomas in camp this far, but he's there. You got maybe the greatest tight end of the last generation of college football in Brock Bowers. Just a stable of offensive linemen. They lost their starting running back before the season. That'll be an interesting one to watch, how that all plays out. But they're always perpetually loaded with talent on the defensive side of the ball. Georgia's going to be right there once again, and they play in the SEC East, so yes, they will play some tough teams because it is the SEC, but at the end of the day, they got about the greatest cupcake schedule that you can get while playing in the SEC when it's all said and done. I would be shocked if they did not go to the SEC Championship and play somebody out of the SEC West in Atlanta come January or December, whenever they play that game at. Alabama, not going to be the QB play you've seen over the last several years. There is no Mac Jones. There is no Bryce Young. There is no Tua Tagovailoa there. You have got a riveting quarterback battle between Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, and transfer quarterback Tyler Buckner. What they do have, though, is a nasty front seven, just disgusting front seven full of 5-star talent up and down that thing. Great secondary behind that front seven. A road-grading offensive line, maybe the best offensive line they've had there in the last several years, even with all the success they've had on offense over there. They got a stable of backs, and I'll tell you right now, I think Joyless Murderball is back in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, man. I think they've got, outside of the quarterback, such a good roster, and a roster that is built to just grind people to death. I think there's a bit of a question of who's going to start at quarterback right now. I think Jalen Milroe is going to start at quarterback because he's the best athlete and can run from that quarterback position. And I think they may lead the nation in running yards this year. I think they're going to be that good on the ground. I don't know what they're going to get out of their receivers. I don't think it necessarily matters as long as they can make a few plays to get the chains moving on long down situations. I think this defense is going to be fantastic. I think the offensive line is going to absolutely grind people to dust this season. And I think they're going to run for a bajillion yards and win a bunch of games this year. I think they might be the best team in the SEC West, even without a consistent starting quarterback when it comes to throwing the ball. This Alabama team is going to be very, very good this year. Do not be fooled by the lack of a great thrower on that team. Every other part of that team from top to bottom is going to be ready to win a national championship this year. I guarantee you that. LSU, another team that's right on the doorstep. They got to the SEC championship last year, kind of pulled that one straight out of their ass, and then got absolutely demolished by Georgia when they got there, and then paid it forward in their bowl game versus Purdue. Just absolutely just decisive. Chopped their heads off. I mean, like, scored 60 points on them in the bowl game. Brian Kelly's out there eating grass after the game. I mean, just a fantastic sight to see. And, of course, Harold Perkins still has to be there for 2 more seasons, which is just unfair. They've got Jaden Daniels, one of the best returning starting quarterbacks in the SEC, coming back. Malik Neighbors, very, very good wide receiver. One of the best wide receivers in the SEC coming back as well. And they've got good offensive line, good defense outside of Harold Perkins. I mean, just a really solid team overall. They will challenge Alabama for that SEC West title. I think a lot of people have LSU winning the SEC West, even with Alabama having the roster that they have right now. They will be very, very good this year, I can guarantee you. If that Brian Kelly, It's only up from here, man, too. This is only year 2. They had a great portal class. They had an even better recruiting class. LSU is just getting started into the Brian Kelly era, man. It is going to be a fun thing to watch now that they're not going to be in the same division as Mississippi State going forward. Tennessee, lose Hendon Hooker over the last year. They lose Jalen Hyatt, lose Cedric Tillman, but they do still have Squirrel White. They do have another guy whose name escapes me that returns from last year, but was also very good. I mean, they're going to be loaded with receivers from here until the end of time just because the style of offense that Josh Heupel plays, very, very attractive for a wide receiver to come in and play. But what I'm most intrigued to see is Bazooka Joe Milton, the man who tossed an orange 120 yards in the lead up to the Orange Bowl last year, the orangest Orange Bowl of all time, facing off Tennessee versus Clemson. Played very, very well in the last couple games. I think Josh Heupel's offensive scheme is going to set him up for the best amount of success possible, and he's got an absolute cannon, probably better than 90% of the quarterbacks in the NFL right now, arm strength-wise. He's got a crazy, crazy arm. If he can control it, just kind of get some consistent accuracy in the short to intermediate routes, I think Joe Milton's going to have a hell of a year. And this is really the litmus test for how QB-proof is Josh Heupel's system. Is it really just one of those things where you can step in and basically make anyone into a star? And if Joe Milton's not cutting it, Nico Iamaleava is just sitting there. Number 1 quarterback in this past class. He will be there next year. He will probably take the reins for Joe Milton next year when inevitably Joe Milton graduates, goes to the NFL. Nico's going to be sitting there. But for right now, I think Joe Milton is set up to have a very, very good year, and I'm excited to see every single throw he does because he, again, Bazooka Joe, and he earns that name. The big question, though, because I think the offense is going to be pretty much good no matter what. How is that defense looking? If it looks better than it did last year, I mean, maybe the record won't reflect it, but they may have an even better team than what they had last year coming out this year, Tennessee. I mean, Josh Heupel got the rig rolling there in Tennessee in a way that I frankly thought might have been impossible after the last just disastrous couple head coaching hires. I mean, starting with Derek Dooley and just going down the line pretty much. I mean, well, I guess start with Lane Kiffin, going to Derek Dooley, and just going down the line from there pretty much. Josh Heupel seems like he's going to be there for a long, long time, getting a lot of success with the Tennessee Volunteers going forward. Let's talk about a team that's near and dear to my heart, that being Mississippi State, the Bulldogs. A team that, if you ask the media, is just dead in the water right now. I mean, picked to finish like last in the SEC West by all those dumbass journalists who don't know a damn thing about college football. Vandy was picked to finish ahead of Mississippi State, which is an asinine thing. I mean, Vandy beat Hawaii by 7 points this week, man. They barely beat Hawaii. I mean, what an embarrassment of the media profession that there were media members picking Vandy to finish ahead of Mississippi State. Mississippi State's returning 19 of 22 starters. Not even that. 19 of those 22 starters are seniors this coming year. Seniors, I say. One of the most experienced teams in the entirety of the SEC. They got a new offensive system there with Kevin Barbay coming over from App State. They're going to go 4 deep in the backfield. They still got the best quarterback in the SEC. Yeah, I said it. Will Rogers, the best returning quarterback in the SEC, coming back in a new offense. I think he'll adapt fine. Anyone talking about, is he going to adapt to being under center? 90+% of the offense at App State under Kevin Barbay was not under center. It was in the shotgun, you absolute buffoons. Watch a game while you're at it, guys, before you come out here with the criticisms. I think the offense is going to be very good. I think it's going to be a differently structured team than it was under Mike Leach. Zach Arnett, going to be much more defensive minded. I think they're going to ground and pound a lot more. It's going to be a lot more balanced than it was under Mike Leach. I think you're going to get, again, 3 to 4 deep in the backfield, and you're just going to keep rotating guys in and out. I mean, Woody Marks is still back there. Simeon Price coming back for another year. You can just keep going on and on. They got a transfer in from Penn State as well. I mean, they are absolutely loaded in the backfield right now. Good offensive line. Question marks at receiver at the moment, but with the way they run this offense, I think that they should be getting ample one-on-one opportunities on the outside to take advantage of, and that defense should be every bit as good as it was last year, returning the top 2 tacklers in the entire conference this last season in Jet Johnson and Buki Watson. This is going to be a very, very good team. Make no mistake about it. Do not believe what the media tells you. They're going to finish better than most of the teams in the SEC West. They're going to finish right behind that top echelon. Book it right now. You can come back and quote me on this later when it actually absolutely falls apart. If it falls apart, I don't think it will, though. I think Mississippi State is going to be right there. Definitely not on LSU's level, definitely not on Alabama's level, but right in that tier right behind them. I think they're going to be better than Ole Miss. I think they're going to be better than Auburn. Are they going to be better than Texas A&M? We'll talk about that in just a second. But let's talk about Ole Miss. Interesting sort of quarterback situation they got going on there. Spencer Sanders transfers from Oklahoma State, comes in, was the presumed starting quarterback, but there's a real quarterback competition between Sanders, Jackson Dart, Walker Howard coming in from the LSU team. They think very highly of him over there. No one really knows who's going to start at quarterback right now. I'll tell you right now, though, they have the best running back in the conference right now in Quinshon Judkins. That dude is a fucking monster. I mean, as a true freshman, just torched the SEC, the toughest defensive conference in all of college football, just made them look like children. And Ole Miss was one of the top rushing teams in all of college football last year. Will the defense play up to the level of the offense, though? That is the eternal question under Lane Kiffin's tutelage. They got the Alabama defensive coordinator there, whose name escapes me. Pete Golding, that's his name, the new defensive coordinator with Ole Miss, former defensive coordinator with Alabama this past season. They brought in Suntarine Perkins, who was probably on Pete Golding's radar when he was at Alabama, and just brought that little nugget with him to Ole Miss. 5-star linebacker, best player in Mississippi in this past recruiting class. He'll probably start right away, and he's an absolute physical freak over there. By all accounts, should have a good team. I mean, they had a really good portal class, solid recruiting class. It's just a matter of putting all that together. I'll tell you right now, though, I still think Mississippi State's going to be better just because they're more experienced, and they just got more heart. All right, they got more heart. Yeah, I don't know about all that, but I do think Mississippi State's going to be better just based on the strength of experience, better quarterback play, solid backfield play, better defense. I do think Mississippi State will be better than Ole Miss this year, in spite of what these preseason polls are telling you. That's just hype boys being hype boys, man. You can't listen to the hype boys all the time. Let's move on, though. South Carolina, Shane Beamer looking like an absolute crackhead on the sidelines, but getting the boys playing and recruiting his damn ass off, man. He's getting 5 stars in there that South Carolina has not been getting since like the Jadeveon Clowney era with Steve Spurrier. He's got the boys recruiting over there, got the boys playing, still got Spencer Rattler returning at quarterback, new play caller after that disastrous season for most of last year. See how it works out there on the offensive side of the ball. Trying to think who else they got in there. I mean, they got a really solid sort of roster overall. The problem is they play in the same division as Georgia, so they're not going to win that division. They could be feisty, though. Watch out for that North Carolina-South Carolina matchup this weekend. That should be a dandy of a matchup. I expect a lot of scoring in that one just based on the merit of Drake May being on one side and the North Carolina defense being on the other side. That's really all you got to know there. But look for South Carolina to be kind of on a similar level to what they were last year. Shane Beamer's got that program moving in the right direction, though. I like what he's got going down there in South Carolina. Big question mark. Will Dowell Logans do well as the offensive coordinator? Yet to be seen, but we will find out very soon in the season. Excuse me, just got to rumble out a burp there real quick, and then we'll just keep it all moving. Kentucky. Another team that, always seems to fly under the radar, but, just ends up with 8-9 wins in a given season. They lose Will Levis this past offseason, but is it really that much of a loss? Who's to say on that side of things? They replaced him with an objectively better college quarterback, though, I'll say, in Devin Leary, coming over from NC State. The offensive line can't be any worse than it was last season. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, Jesus Christ, I can't think of the name right. Will Levis, I just said it, and I couldn't think of it there for a second. Will Levis just got absolutely killed behind that offensive line last year. Should be improved from what it was last year. The defense always seems to be on the cusp of doing great things there with Kentucky. They were probably the second best defense in the entire conference last year, and I expect a similar sort of output this coming season. Again, not as good as Georgia, but should be good enough to be feisty throughout the course of this year. Watch watch for Devin Leary to have a big year down there in Kentucky. Probably his last year of college football before he goes off into the NFL. Arkansas. If you believe Arkansas fans, they got the best quarterback and the best running back in all of the land in Rocket Sanders in the backfield. Tried to give myself time to think of the quarterback's name because it just absolutely just slipped from my mind, man. I got to look this up. I'm going to feel like an absolute idiot when I see this name because I can hear it on the tip of my tongue who the starting quarterback is. Starting quarterback, yes. KJ Jefferson, Jesus Christ. Again, I am an idiot. Absolute idiot. KJ Jefferson, solid dual threat quarterback there. Loses Kendall Briles, so that's going to be a big time question mark. This will be the first season with Arkansas that KJ Jefferson has not had Kendall Briles as the offensive coordinator. Had a couple really good years under Kendall Briles. We'll have to see what this new era has in store for him. But does still have Rocket Sanders, who may not be the best running back in all of the SEC, but a very, very good running back, a guy that's going to be drafted in next year's draft if he comes out. And KJ Jefferson, very, very good quarterback as well. The question after coming off of last season is, how is that defense going to do? All they did was lose players this offseason pretty much, and I don't know. They gave up a bajillion points to Kansas in the bowl game this past season. I don't see the defense being much improved over last year, but that offense should be fun. I mean, Arkansas got the makings of a very fun team. I just don't think they got the makings of a competitive team, and I think they will finish worse than Mississippi State this year. I'm just, being a homer, I'm going to frame a lot of these in the reference of Mississippi State and how they're going to finish. The media has Arkansas finishing ahead of Mississippi State, so they're wrong. I'll tell you that right now. Florida. Talk about a guy that's under a lot of pressure. Billy Napier might get fired this year if he doesn't have at least a serviceable year down there in Florida. He brings in Graham Mertz from the portal. He'll be the starting quarterback this upcoming year after they lose Anthony Richardson to the draft. Who's going to be the receiver? Who's going to be the running backs? Who's to say? They need to improve from what they did last year, though, if Billy Napier wants to stick around. Defensively, will they be better? Dude's got his work cut out for him, and I'm skeptical to say the least. They have a tough road test in week 1 going to Utah. Not only going across 2 time zones to play in Utah, but going up to elevation in the high desert, probably close to a mile high of elevation there. I mean, it's going to be an absolutely lit atmosphere there in Salt Lake City week 1, but it is about as challenging as you can get. It is as challenging for Florida this year as the Utah trip to Florida was last year. I'll say that right now. It's going to be a dandy of a game on Thursday night, though. Tune in because it's going to be just fun for the entire family. Leave the kids at home, though. This is going to be a fun one. There you go. Florida, I don't have high expectations. Their win total is set at 5.5 for a reason. Billy Napier got his work cut out for him down there in Florida. Missouri, Elijah Drinkwitz has put his foot directly in his mouth on several occasions throughout the course of this offseason. Sounded like a nerd on a lot of occasions, but I'll tell you what, dude's been recruiting his ass off, man. Got a 5-star defensive lineman over the course of this past couple weeks committed there. That's not going to help this year, I'll tell you that right now, but in the coming years, Elijah Drinkwitz has got them moving in the right direction. And moving in a direction that Missouri has not been moved in really since they came into the SEC. Had Blaine Gabbert for that 1 year and made some noise very early on in their SEC tenure. Has not really shown a pulse up until recently, but they got a very good defense, an improving offense. I don't think they'll be bad this year. I just don't think they'll be good enough to win the SEC East, and that's really what we're kind of all looking at here as far as what they're going to do competitively. I think they'll probably be better than they were last year, though, and they might end up having the one of the best defenses in the conference when it's all said and done. But temper expectations because it is still Missouri. I like what Elijah Drinkwitz is building there in Missouri, though. Auburn, the man is back, man. I mean, the snake oil salesman of all snake oil salesmen. And, of course, I am talking about Liberty's finest and a great head coach formerly of Ole Miss. I am blanking on the name right now. Jesus Christ. Why? Not Willie Fritz. He's down at Tulane. Jesus Christ. I got to look this up too. What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Auburn head coach. Who's that? Who's that? Hugh Freeze. Jesus Christ, I'm a stupid fucking idiot. Hour and a half-ish into this, and I'm just it's falling apart at the seams here. Got a very good recruiting class in, though. Good recruiting class, good portal class. Got Peyton Thorne in from the portal. Brought in a couple guys from Liberty as well. I don't think they're going to be that good this year, though. I think they're going to be okay. I don't think they're going to be like bad by any stretch of the imagination. I just don't think they're going to be that great. I think in all likelihood, I don't think they finish ahead of Mississippi State when it's all said and done in the SEC West. I do think Peyton Thorne is an upgrade over what they had last year at quarterback, but the bar was set very low for what they had at quarterback last year. Lose Tank Bigsby to the draft. I guess they bring in some guys there as well, but it's a big wait and see sort of year for Hugh Freeze and Auburn. I don't know if year one's going to be that good. I think if anyone fits the ethos of Auburn that comes in as a head coach, it was not Brian Harsin last year. Hugh Freeze absolutely fits the win by any means necessary ethos of Auburn. So I love that culture fit. I think, as the poet Brandon Walker so eloquently put it, they're either going to win a national title or they're all going to prison. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's a perfect culture fit there in Auburn. I just don't know if year one is going to be that smashing of a success in Auburn this year. Texas A&M, probably the most interesting team to watch through the course of this season if you love drama. And boy, do I love myself a little bit of drama here, because they bring in Bobby Petrino as the new offensive coordinator. The play caller for who's to say how long, but that is going to be the dynamic that makes or breaks the year for Texas A&M. Will Bobby Petrino come in and revamp this offense, get that rig rolling in a way that it has? I mean, basically, you remember back to last year, Devon Achane was the entire offense, and he was spectacular to say the least, don't get me wrong, but they had bad quarterback play, seems like an outdated offensive scheme. Evan Stewart is an absolute freak on the outside, very, very good receiver, but the offense just did not click throughout the course of last year, did not play well, no matter who they put in there, whether it be Connor Wegman, Haynes, any of the other guys they tried out there. Did not work out throughout the course of last year on offense outside of Devon Achane. Can Bobby Petrino come in there and take the reins, make this into a team that scores 30, 40 a game? Will Jimbo Fisher be disciplined enough in his own right to let Bobby Petrino take this offense to another level? Or the second he struggles, is he going to take the reins and bump Bobby Petrino to the side? And more importantly, from a just a petty perspective, how many blowups are we going to see on the sidelines between Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino? Because that is gasoline and fire right there, man. Blow-ups are going to happen. It's just a matter of, are they going to happen behind the scenes or are they going to happen on the sidelines? This should be a drama-filled, fun year in Texas A&M. There are two options here right now, man. Either Bobby Petrino shows up and they're a high-flying, very good team with a really good defense that's competing for the SEC West, or on the flip side of things, Jimbo Fisher can't get out of his own way, and it is just an absolute shit show the entire year on offense. They finished like 5-7 once again, and Jimbo Fisher ends up getting kicked to the curb because there is no amount of money that those Texas A&M boosters won't pay if Jimbo Fisher does not produce once again this year to get him the hell out of town. Either way, no matter what the outcome is, it's going to be fun to watch down there in Texas A&M, man. It is going to be a fun year to watch that team in College Station go out and play. Just a matter of what are they going to do. And the odd man out here, Vanderbilt, they're going to stink. I'm just going to put it out there right now. They're going to absolutely fucking stink. They only beat Hawaii by 7 points. That is a team that when you play Hawaii, you should be winning by a large margin. Vandy was favored to win by 17.5 going into that game. Hawaii covered with ease, only losing by 7 points. Vandy, that may be the only win they have the entire year. I mean, that may be a little bit of an exaggeration. They'll probably get a couple out-of-conference games because famously the SEC out-of-conference schedule is a bunch of cupcakes. Never mind that basically everyone has a Power 5 matchup sprinkled in there somewhere, and basically everyone across all of college football have cupcake matchups to start the season. But Vanderbilt, once again, in the SEC, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. I'll tell you that right now. And if I had to look into my crystal ball and wrap this whole thing up with an SEC prediction, man, my gut wants to take Alabama so bad. I don't think Georgia. It's going to be a little bit. I mean, a down year by Georgia standards. I think they're still going to get 10 or 11 wins. Maybe they fall at one point, slip up a little bit during the course of the season, probably get a win in the regular season, then probably lose in the conference championship. Will probably keep them out of the playoffs. That's still a down year by Kirby Smart standards. So I think they're going to have a quote-unquote down year and not win the SEC. It's either going to be Alabama or LSU, though. I feel like LSU is going to be right there when it's all said and done. You know what? I'm doing it. I'm taking them. I think LSU is going to win this conference. I think they got a better quarterback than Alabama. I think the rest of the team is comparable enough to where they'll compete. That Alabama-LSU game this year is going to be must-watch television. It is basically every year, but this year in particular, that is going to be must-watch television over there in Tuscaloosa. I believe that game is being played in this year. But I got LSU winning the conference this year when it's all said and done. That LSU-FSU game in week 1 this coming weekend, boy, oh boy, set your clocks for it. Make sure nothing else is going on because that is going to be the must-watch game of week 1. I cannot wait for this whole thing to get going.